The debate is tonight. Yes, we will finally hear the two candidates face off over some of the biggest issues and some of the biggest talking points. If we're talking about how I anticipate Kamala Harris's performance is going to go, that will be at the end of the stream. But if you are following on YouTube, we're not going to be able to see that because ABC is going to be going through and looking through YouTube content to try to find people streaming out the debate to shut it down so they can control the narrative. But this will be following on Twitch and Rumble after the stream, so stick tight if you are on one of those, or ask somebody for the link, or check in the description if you're on YouTube for the link to either of those. So we'll be talking about that at the very bottom of the show. In other news, wildfires go back and rage through Los Angeles again, as we do this every single year. But we'll be talking about who's being evacuated, where it's safe to go, what it's safe to do, and, well, it's Los Angeles, so there's really nothing safe to do, but we'll get you the warnings out there anyway off of that. 2 shootings in a matter of 2 days rock this country. One on a busy interstate in Kentucky, one at a school in Georgia, both involving apparently an AR-style rifle, so we'll be going over that, and how convenient it is that both of these happen within 7 days of a major presidential debate. And the government shutdown is here again. That's right, we're going to be talking about the bills that are out there to keep the government open, the opposition to the bills, and how this could turn around and backfire on Republicans. As, well, the media is always going to make it backfire on Republicans. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So, strap yourselves in, find some friends, get some food, and enjoy me for the next, not 2 this time, but 3 hours, as we will continue coverage into the debate tonight, and hear the drums echoing tonight. But you hear is only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in, 12:30 flight. Her moonlit wigs reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. So I'm not 100% sure what Riding Day is, but that sure was a pretty song. Thank you to DJ Cutman again for providing all the music. I don't want to say too much right now, but there are talks. There are things that could happen, and Ed Talk could happen with the artist of a lot of the music that you hear behind, and especially the producer of the record label that is providing a lot of this music here. The promises had to go out that it has to be non-political, but as I said to the intermediary here, the person who's entering in the talks, Ed Talk is different than Contemporary. It only gets political as the guest wants. Because, well, I've been blackpilled on most of this for as long as I can, but that could be happening up here in the near future. Anyway, we got a ton to go over here tonight, and we've got a hard cutoff of 8 Central Time tonight, because after this, as I mentioned in the cold open, the YouTube gets shut down at 8 o'clock sharp, possibly a little bit after because it's ABC and they're going to be waiting for all the debate prep. And if you are joining on the Twitch channel, on the Rumble channel, and probably on the Facebooks as well, if you're over on the fan page over there, we'll be continuing on those channels, but the YouTube is getting shut off because, well, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, they're going to be content Nazis. over this here, and they're going to be shutting down every single instance that they can find of the YouTube. But hey, because it's an Amazon gaming platform, they for whatever reason never go and check Twitch. So that's where we're going to be doing that, over there. Guys, come in, you can play along and comment along as we go, and it's going to be a fantastic time. I think it's going to be awesome. I have some expectations that we're going to be talking about that a little bit after the top of the show, after we get through the finance, after we get through the danger and everything else that goes on with that. We'll be talking a little bit about expectations here, but we've got a lot of news to go over here, so we can wait and not go over the expectations and instead go over the talking points that are going to be probably brought up in all of this as well. So, if you know somebody who's interested in the debate, share the links out. The Rumble and the Rumble is over in the Discord if you're in the Discord. The Twitch is in the description down below if you're over on the YouTube, or you're probably watching over on Twitch. Either way, so share this out. We'll get some people in here. We'll get some chatter going on. This will also be, obviously, for obvious reasons, cut off from the audio platform. I am going to stop the recording about the time that we turn off the YouTube as well, because that's what we're going to be going into for that. And anyway, let's get into the news. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as Overruled with KTZed every Sunday morning, and the Daily Ignoramus, who streams at very odd hours lately. He's all over the place right now, but still go and check him out. Follow Steven because he is awesome. Let's get down to the news. Let's get started. And we're going to start with the sad news of the day. New scene up. Let's get the live chat up here. Do feel free to live chat along with whatever it is that you see interesting as we go, because the more you chat, the more we get brought up to the front page of whatever platform we're streaming on. And I definitely look forward to seeing you guys over there for that. Alright, Palm is first. Palm is here for a bit and then go work out for the debate. Yeah, I didn't get to work out today. A lot of stuff happening, and, well, our Sunday was very busy this week too, but I'm going to be getting a bit more into that, doing some low impact stuff because, well, most of you know I sprained my foot earlier on this year, and I need to get back into it. I need to actually start doing something, so that's going to be coming up here. Hopefully Small Human is dancing beautifully. I'm sure that she will. Palm says the debate is here, and you can tell because J. Edgar is pulling his hair out. Not yet. Mogwai says Los Angeles on fire. We did not start the fire, but the fire is burning. Nice. Oh, the cold open song, Africa by Toto. Yeah, given one of the major characters that the person we're going to be talking about at the top here that you can already see on the screen played, I thought that'd be appropriate for this. Did I just go bite an old man by calling it the Facebook? It is the Facebook. It's the Boomer book. And Palm, if you want to throw that link out to my mom for the YouTube, and later on for the Twitch, I told her that you throw it out for the Twitch at debate time, but if you want to get her up in the chat as well, that'd be cool. The debate is set to last 90 minutes, so will you be here for 3.5 hours? We'll be here for the whole thing. I don't have any caffeine, but we're going to power through it anyway. No breaks. Breaks are for sissies. Alright, let's get into the news of the day. Let's get the Rumble chat up here. See what they're going to do. I wonder how many people are actually going to join over there just because of the fact that we have that going. Anyway, let's get started. We got some sad news to start off the news today. CNN Entertainment bringing us the F-worthy news. F's in the chat, people. James Earl Jones, iconic actor and memorable voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa, dead at 93. Actually, I was going to point out the King of Zamunda as his major character. But yes, Mufasa would work for Africa too. From Brandon Griggs and Ellie Rosenblum. You can't think of James Earl Jones without hearing his voice. That booming basso profundo conveying instant dignity or menace was Jones's signature instrument. It brought power to all of his stage and movie roles, most indelibly as Darth Vader in Star Wars, Mufasa in The Lion King, and as the voice of CNN. That remarkable voice is just one of the many things the world will miss out about the beloved actor who died Monday. According to his agent, he was 93 years old. Mock says, I do wonder if they used James Earl Jones' "This is breaking news" to announce his death. I don't know. I read it in print, so I didn't get to see that, unfortunately. That is funny, though. I like that. Jones was surrounded by his family when he died. His representative said no cause of death was shared. He was 93 fucking years old. Take your pick. Modern medicine has done fantastic things, and our bodies can weather a lot. But we do have an expiration date, folks. It's sad, but we do have an expiration date. These bodies are not intended to last forever. From the gentle wisdom of Mufasa to the menacing threat of Darth Vader, James Earl Jones gave voice to some of the greatest characters in cinema history, said Bob Iger, Chief Executive Officer at Walt Disney Company, in a statement. A celebrated stage actor with nearly 200 film and television credits to his name, the stories he brought to life, with a uniquely commanding presence and a true richness of spirit, have left an indelible mark on the generations of audiences. Jones had a distinguished career that spanned 60 years and took him from small-town theater in northern Michigan to the highest reaches of Hollywood. In the mid-70s, Star Wars creator George Lucas cast towering British actor David Prowse as the guy inside Darth Vader's black suit, but decided he wanted someone else to voice the character. George said, George thought he wanted pardon the expression, a darker voice, Jones once told the American Film Institute. I lucked out. Back then, nobody imagined Star Wars would become the blockbuster, let alone the enduring franchise and cultural phenomenon. Jones recorded all of his lines in a few hours and was not listed in the film's credits, even though you knew the voice. He was paid just $7,000 for the movie, and he thought it was good money. Well, in 1977, it was damn good money, I would think. The actor and Lucas had disagreements about how he should voice the villainous Vader. I wanted to make Darth Vader more interesting, more subtle, more psychologically oriented, Jones said. He said, no, you've got to keep his voice on a very narrow band of inflection, because he ain't human. Which it turned out he was in the end. Vader's climactic duel with Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill in 1980's The Empire Strikes Back, became a dramatic high point in the Star Wars series, punctuated by Jones's delivery of one of the most famous lines in movie history, No, I am your father. Hamill issued a statement on Monday, writing on Instagram, one of the world's finest actors whose contributions to Star Wars were immeasurable, he'll be greatly missed. Rest in peace, #dad. Jones said that almost 2 decades later, when he was voicing the dignified Mufasa for Disney's animated The Lion King, it took him a while to strike the right tone. My first mistake was to try to make him regal, Jones said of the 1994 film. And what they really needed was something more like me. They said, what are you like as a father? And I said, well, I'm a really dopey dad. He continued, and so they began to impose my facial expressions onto Mufasa in a different tone of voice. Yeah, he was authoritative, but he was a gentle dad. So, absolutely iconic. There he is next to Prowse. And, I mean, as much as I dislike the Obi-Wan series, to hear the crackling and the juxtaposition of Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones' voices combined, because they did that for the effect of the movie, was great cinematography. The rest of the series sucked and the storyline was absolute garbage, but I will give Disney credit where credit is due. They were able to do very good cinematography for that. Jones also joined the Clone Wars cast to voice the iconic character for the final episode after Anakin's turn to Darth Vader. which happened in the background of the series, but was happening in episode 3 of the movie. And I know somebody had posted the GIF over on the Discord too of the iconic ending after the switch from Hayden Christensen to, well, actually it was Hayden Christensen in the suit in that movie as well, but the switch from the human Darth Vader to the more cybernetic Darth Vader with the James Earl Jones voice included again. And the no when he found out that Padme died. It was, I mean, then this guy did so much more than Star Wars too. It was incredible. One of my favorite voices out there, and yes, let's not forget the King of Zamunda, which again was probably one of my favorite roles of his, in spite of me being a massive Star Wars fan. The one thing that did, and I didn't care for too much, is as he was getting older and the elder rasp in his voice was starting to come in. I liked Rogue One. I liked that a lot. As far as Disney interpretations of Star Wars, that was one of the better ones, I'll admit. But I mean, you could hear that Jones was haggard when he was voicing Vader again for the end of that movie. You could hear that he was older. He wasn't the same person that he was at that point. So, anyway, that is enough about James Earl Jones. Rest in peace. Go forward. And yes, it was he, because of the King of Zamunda. That was the reason that we listened to Toto from Africa when we started off. So, rest in peace, Vader. I did not see the Sandlot. Alright, now we've actually got to talk about things that are happening in the news. I know, it's lame. So, first thing we do, as the elections loom, as the issues come to light, check on the markets. The markets were down very slightly today. They actually vaulted up right at the opening of trading and then dropped off and started to claw their way back, ending at 4736.96. The previous close was 4829.59, so about 90 points down on the day. So it's not great. It's not great news at all. It's just kind of hovering there, though. I kind of looked out at the 5-day because, I mean, it's been 5 business days since we talked about this last, and it's just been kind of all over the place. They touched close to a record high. What is the record high? 52-week high is 41,585. So the peak for the 5-day was at 41,142.65. And then we dropped down to about 40,300 in the last week. And it's just kind of balancing out. The stock market doesn't know where to go because the investors don't know what's happening. You get a day of great news, then you get a day of shit news. We're in a very, very big amount of flux right now, so we'll be watching this and seeing where this goes. Let's grab a little bit on the markets from Market Watch. From Market Watch, stock market today, Dow ends down nearly 100 points. S&P edges up ahead of CPI inflation report. Yes, that's going to be on deck as well. Dow ends down nearly 100 points. S&P edges up ahead of CPI inflation report by Isabel Wang. U.S. stocks finished mostly higher on Tuesday afternoon, with the S&P and the NASDAQ scoring back-to-back gains ahead of Wednesday's release of August CPI inflation report. The Dow was down 92.63 points, or 0.2%, ending at 40,736.96. According to FactSet data, the S&P rose 24.47 points, or 0.5%, to end at 54,9552, and the NASDAQ advanced 141.28, or 0.8%, to finish at 17,025.88. Treasury yields hit the lowest closing levels of 2024 as a recession concerns reverberate. From Vivian Lu Chen, Tuesday's broad-based rally in U.S. government debt, fueled in part by ongoing worries about an economic slowdown, since yields to the lowest levels closing this year. The 2-year rate finished at 3.608%, its lowest level since September 12, 2022. Meanwhile, the 10-year yield fell to 3.643%, its lowest closing since June 1st of 2023. The 30-year rate ended at 3.954%, or the lowest level since December 27th. And I mean, yeah, it's the big thing with the treasury yields, and as they go, is that the Fed has been pumping them up and holding them up, trying to get people to invest into the system so the government can borrow the money from the taxpayers and not have to raise the taxes at that point. Because, I mean, if a Democrat administration raises taxes, we're cooked. They're cooked, their coalition is cooked, and the people are going to come back and turn on them. They've been able to hold it off and not do an artificial tax raise so far. We're still going on the Trump tax cuts as of this point. That's partially because people have been able to get a 4+% yield on the Treasury for most of the Biden admin. But at some point, the money's going to run out, the music's going to stop, and the American people are going to be left without a chair. So we've got a lot to watch as we come in here for the debate. Let's look at the polls coming in as well. All right, looking at the polls. It looks like, and we've been watching the Harris lead dwindle for the last couple weeks. It's been up, and that's one of the reasons that I want to watch this. And I look at the aggregate. I always look at the aggregate. The Daily Wire was out there talking already about, okay, gang, just this one poll shows that the enthusiasm post-DNC for Kamala Harris is evaporating. It's all gone, and now it's going to be Trump. It's going to be Trump. But they do the same thing that the stupid fucking leftoids do. Constantly. They look at one poll. My friend Wiz Political over on X does the same thing, except he is doom and gloom and everything is over and we're all going to be sent into camps and it's all over. It's done because we didn't nominate DeSantis. And he always does it with one single poll. And every time I call him up and I say, check the aggregate, dude. Because a reminder, and they put these up. At this week, September 10th, 2020, Biden was up 7.5%. But on this week, on September 10th, Clinton was up 2.7%. In the same aggregate, on election day, Clinton was up 4.5% on the same aggregate. We're at anything can happen territory. If you want the change, if you want a change in leadership, if you want somebody else at the helm, this is the time to get out there and vote and tell a bunch of your friends to do so. No black pill zone here. I don't want to vote for Trump either, but as of right now, Kamala Harris terrifies me more. This is an anti-Kamala vote, and yes, I know, I said I would never do one of those again. But God, I'm genuinely terrified of having that level of prosecutor being the chief law enforcement officer of the country. So, if you want to see a certain outcome where they spread this thin, do your part. Knock on doors, bring 3 or 4 friends with you who are reluctant, and go out and vote. Dual Helix has joined us. FFS Rumble sucks. Either that or it's Comcast and Xfinity. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're going to stick around toward the end, Dual Helix, to see the debate, because we will be covering that at 8 p.m. Central on this channel. We will be shutting down YouTube for the debate, but Rumble and Twitch will continue on. The Mogwai says, the markets have more ups and downs than a bipolar drunk chick. Nice. Mog says, are we going to kill the headlights and put it in neutral? Stop car flaming with the loser and the cruise control? Maybe. Like that song, by the way. Mog says, my parents have early voted for Kamala 700 times already. Now, I know that Mog says that as a joke, but I know that Midget B's dad has probably done that already in Madison. So, and if you're curious about how that works, go and ask him about it. The forest mushrooms are on. We got through this section of Mario RPG last night, or last Wednesday, rather. God, I'm so glad I'm playing that game. That is one of my favorites. All right. One more thing before we get into political news. If you know anybody in the LA area, do feel free to reach out to them. If you got to jump off stream for a little bit and let them know, or go check on the fact that if they're safe or not. CBS News reporting track California's wildfires with interactive maps showing burn areas, evacuation zone, and air quality. Don't dox your family, but if you see something on here that's a hotspot, and you know that somebody lives over there, give them a call. Make sure they're safe. 3 large wildfires are burning across SoCal, affecting vast areas and leading to evacuations fueled by dry conditions and high winds in piss-poor forest management. The fires are threatening homes and other structures in multiple counties, displacing thousands of residents. Together, the bridge fire, line fire, and airport fire have scorched tens of thousands of acres and continue to challenge firefighting efforts. Below are interactive maps showing in real time where the fires are burning, where they're headed, the areas under evacuation orders, and air quality. So let's look. So we've got a few of them up around here. I want to see what the hotspots are. You can see that we've got the line coming off here in South Los Angeles by Rancho Cucamonga. Stuff still going down further south into Menifee, Murrieta. And up in the Santa Clarita and Simi Valley up here, we've got more hotspots and everything going here. So, and other fires going all the way up and over. But these are the big ones. So if you know somebody in the LA area and you see something concerning on this map, do make sure to go check that they are safe. The bridge fire burning near Glendora in the San Gabriel Mountains, the bridge fire is spread across nearly 3,000 acres. Crews are contending with difficult terrain as they work to protect homes and contain the fire, which is threatening surrounding communities under the mandatory evacuation. And the people that, some of which Kamala put in prison, are probably out there fighting it right now. The line fire, located in San Bernardino County, the line fire has grown rapidly to more than 2,600 acres, or 1,000 acres rather. With only 5% containment, firefighters are trying to gain control of the blaze as they contend with gusty winds and extremely dry vegetation. That's your forest management, by the way. Evacuation orders remain in effect for multiple neighborhoods. And the airport fire. This fire, which started in Orange County's Trabuco Canyon, has grown to more than 9,000 acres. Evacuation warnings are in place for nearby areas as fire crews work to prevent further spread. So, if you know anybody in these areas, again, go check on them, make sure they're safe. I'm not going to wait contemporary for you, but it'll still be here when you're back. So, there you go. The California fires. One from ABC 7 Eyewitness. Some visitors evacuated from Angeles National Forest amid 800-acre brush fire. From ABC 7 staff. A new brush fire broke out Sunday in the Angeles National Forest area of Azusa, quickly spreading to at least 800 acres. The bridge fire was reported Sunday around 2:40 p.m. in the area near East Fork Road and San Gabriel Canyon. The blaze was leading to closures of roads in the area and the evacuation of hikers and other visitors to the forest. Also ordered to evacuate were the East Fork communities of Camp Williams Resort, which consisted of a cafe, mobile home park, and campground. Road closures include Highway 39 at the mouth of the canyon, as well as East Fork, Glendora Mountain, and Glendora Ridge roads, and it's expanded from there. But we've got people evacuated. Sounds like everything is mostly safe at this point. Last one on the fires before we get into the really spicy stuff. From the Associated Press. Ooh. Helix is having problems with Comcast. I'm shocked. I'm afraid if I click away, my chat will stop working. I don't know if it's just me. Literally, I have to restart everything, wipe cache, reset my internet connection, open a private window for Rumble chat to work. Maybe that's just Comcast blocking Rumble because evil right-wing echo chamber, oh my god! I feel like Kermit the Frog when I do that. Yay! My internet will hiccup in another 10 minutes and maybe take up to an hour to work again. And yes, I've been drunk calling 1-800-COMCAST. They really piss me off. If anybody can drunk dial a customer service line, it's Dual Helix. Let me speak to your supervisor, and then I still yell at the poor fool. Sorry to hear that. The Thunderbird. Eugene Garcia and Tran Nguyen, an out-of-control wildfire in the foothills of the National Forest east of Los Angeles, threatened tens of thousands of buildings and forced hundreds of residents to flee Sunday amid a days-long heat wave of triple-digit temperatures. This so-called line fire was burning along the edge of San Bernardino National Forest, about 65 miles east of LA, as of Sunday morning. The blaze had charred about 27 square miles of grass and chaparral, leaving a thick cloud of dark smoke blanketing the area. The fire burned so hot Saturday it created its own thunderstorm-like weather systems of pyrocumulus clouds, which could bring more challenging conditions such as gusty winds and lightning strikes. According to the National Weather Service, firefighters also faced steep terrain, which limited their ability to control the blaze. Officials said the fire remained uncontained Sunday afternoon. So, yeah, the clouds are causing their own lightning, which is, I mean, it's a vicious cycle at this point. It really is. If you know anybody over there that needs checking on, go check on him. All right, it is debate night. So, tonight at 8 p.m., you don't have to worry about CBS News' where to go watch, because that's actually buried way down in the bottom rather. We have got that covered over here. If you stay tuned in to Contemporary after 8, or if you step away and then come back after 8 p.m. Central Time, it will be right here. You will not see this on YouTube. My commentary will be in here, and I will call out both of them for lying, as I'm sure both of them will. Although ABC will never admit the fact that Harris lied. They will only say that Trump lied. They are both going to lie. They are both politicians. Which means they're going to lie their asses off. But the question of how to watch the first presidential debate between Harris and Trump is to come to Contemporary and join us here. 8 p.m. Central Time. Melissa Quinn. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris are set to meet in Philadelphia on Tuesday for the first and perhaps only, it is only by the way, debate before the November presidential election. The matchup will mark the first time Trump and Harris have met in person, and it comes at a point in the election season. A new CBS poll shows the Republican and Democrat presidential nominees locked in tight races in the battleground states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, with less than 60 days until voters choose who will be the next president. Hosted by ABC News, the debate was initially supposed to be the second meeting of Trump and Biden. But Biden's decision in late July to bow out of the race set off a frenetic series of events that culminated with Harris accepting the Democratic nomination at the party's convention last month, without a single vote cast. The weeks leading up to the debate have seen the two sides sparring over the rules. Harris's campaign pushed the microphones to be on throughout the debate, and, by the way, they printed off millions of t-shirts and bumper stickers and coffee mugs that all said, "I'm speaking," because they wanted to get the girl boss moment. With the microphones on, where Trump tried to talk over Harris and she said, I'm speaking. Which is the only jab that she got in on the Pence debate. And I know a lot of the mainstreams will come out and say that she out-debated Pence. She got, and I watched the debate, fly in the head or not, she got crushed by Mike Pence. Which is fucking saying something, because it's Mike Pence. Kamala Harris lost a debate to a person who had to have a personality surgically installed after January 6th. So he could come back and talk about how much he hates the Donald. While Trump said his campaign agreed to the same rules that were in place for the first face-off, while he and Mr. Biden met, microphones were active only when a candidate was speaking. Muted microphones ultimately prevailed after Harris's campaign accepted the rules set forth by ABC, though it warned she will be fundamentally disadvantaged by this format. Again, it's because she can't go to try to talk over him and then have him come back and take his turn, and she says, I'm speaking. The debate is set to run 90 minutes and will be hosted by ABC's David Moore and Lindsay Davis. Both candidates will stand between podiums and they cannot bring props or pre-written notes on stage. According to the rules released by ABC, there will not be a public audience in the room. ABC is allowing other TV networks to simulcast the debate, but not YouTube. Harris has spent the days leading up to the meeting in Pittsburgh, where she participated in extended mock debates, and arrived in Philadelphia on Monday night. Trump, meanwhile, has been going over policy positions with advisors in the run-up to the event, though his preparations have been characterized as informal, except for the fact that he's been coached by Tulsi Gabbard, who is most famous right now for sharpening her claws in Kamala Harris. The ABC-hosted debate is the only one that Harris and Trump have agreed to so far. The former president proposed a total of 3 matchups, with the other 2 hosted by Fox News and NBC News, but the vice president has only agreed to Tuesday debate, while her campaign has indicated she would be open to one more in October. Trump has also suggested several times he may pull out of the ABC debate while criticizing its top hosts, though he appears poised to participate. I'm waiting for it. Pixie Grits is over here. I've seen that name in here before, so welcome. Grits makes me think that line from My Cousin Vinny. So do you have some magical kitchen where it only takes you 5 minutes to make grits? Because everybody else in the grit-eating world takes 20 minutes. Hey, no self-respecting Southerner eats instant grits. Alright, I'm going to park this over here on the other screen because we'll come back to this again 1 hour and 15 minutes on the way over. Now let's talk about what was convenient about this week. So, let's see. Do I want to do this one? Yes, I do want to do this one first because this one is still active at this point. Valerie Martin. Another active shooter, all caps. Numerous people have been shot near I-75 and exit 49 in Kentucky. How many times are we going to be told, get over it, move on? Which, by the way, was a lie. They're trying to say that J.D. Vance said that, but they took him a very brief clip and took him out of context. I don't know about you, but I'm fucking sick of it. Conveniently, 4 days before a presidential debate. Weird. Anyway, I was going back to go over and check the Rumble chat. And the Twitch chat, actually, all at the same time. Gives me something to do at least. I totally expect Trump to be really screwed by the production. It's possible. I thought that's how it was going to be last time, but it was basically just feed Biden to Trump. Yeah, that was. Maybe that's what they'll do again. I still think they're moving pieces around behind the curtains. They'll figure it out. Kamala's the dancing girl in front of the curtain, and that's basically my analysis of the situation. Helix says there was no personality. There is no personality. There was nothing installed. She's full format C like every morning. Nice. Pixie Grits has joined us over here. Jewel Helix says, welcome to the Rumble side. Normally I'd be following that story like crazy. Well, we're going to be talking about it. Mogwai says Gerald Ford was quoted as saying voting's an overrated part of the process. Again, still, if you want to see a change, it's on you. I can't do it for you. From WLWT, normally I would start with the basics of what happened here, but I want to, again, because of the fact that this jack-off is still at large, so I wanted to let this one know, because I want this fuckstick to get caught. And I want him to get caught alive so he can be questioned, too, even though once he's caught alive, the story is going to be memory hold. And only brought up when it's time to go talk about gun debate again. We're never going to hear his testimony. Just like we're never going to hear the one from Georgia either, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. From WLWT, NPC 5, reward increase for info leading up to arrest of Kentucky interstate shooting suspect. From Emily Sanderson. The search is ongoing on the ground and in the air for the suspected gunman accused of shooting 5 people on the highway in rural Kentucky over the weekend. The U.S. Marshal's Office and the FBI are now helping in the search for 32-year-old Joseph Couch. hate to tell you this, it's been 4 days. I want to see this guy caught and drawn and quartered. After trial, of course. But realistically, out in the woods somewhere and across several states, I'm not saying you're never going to catch him. I'm just saying good fucking luck. Although, it wouldn't surprise me to the least to find out that somebody found him in a self-delete pose with a mysteriously shiny firearm in his hand. That ballistics will show has only ever had one bullet through it. And wiped the fingerprints. 5 people were seriously injured when shots rang out along Interstate 75 on Saturday evening. We'll be talking about that separately. Laurel County Sheriff John Root described the chaotic scene when first responders arrived around 6 p.m., saying cars were on the side of the road with windows shut out and people severely hurt. We'll go over a little bit of this later on. On the search, though, the manhunt began on Saturday for 32-year-old Joseph Couch, who was considered a person of interest. Authorities say they found Couch's silver Toyota SUV on Saturday night, and on Sunday they recovered an AR-15, because of course it was an AR-15, that Couch allegedly used in the shooting, along with thousands of rounds of ammunition. Investigators say Couch bought the gun legally, along with 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Officials stated Couch has a military past, serving in the reserves for at least 4 years. On Sunday, Couch was upgraded from person of interest to a suspect. He is considered armed and dangerous. Officials believe he fled to the wooded area near the interstate. In a Tuesday update, Kentucky State Police said they were working to search thousands of acres in Daniel Boone National Forest in an attempt to find Couch. Right now, Trooper Scotty Pennington said there's no evidence Couch has left the forest, so they'll continue their search as long as necessary. So, if you are around the Daniel Boone National Forest, be safe. If you see this jackass, call authorities. Remember, don't be a hero. He is armed and dangerous. Although I think he is long gone by now. From WLKY, CBS. I-75 shooting in Kentucky. What we know about the suspect, victims, and manhunt. I want to know why he's pissed. I don't know. It's weird to me that somebody who is known to the FBI goes out the day of doing this and buys a brand new AR-style rifle. Quote, legally, and a bunch of ammunition. Which is expensive as shit. What is 5.56 going for nowadays? Check ammo.com. Yeah, 900 rounds of 55 grain FMG M193. I don't know if I can show this on YouTube, so I'm going to leave this over in my left window. But it's currently on sale for $404.99 plus the cost of the AR that he apparently also bought just this morning. 1,000 rounds for $474.99. So it's about $500 worth of ammo, plus he had 1,000 already. And the cost of the AR, which they're not telling us what the model was. I'd guess it was probably a Daniel Defense or something super high-end. If I had to wager a guess. Manhunt is entering its third day after a shooting on Interstate 75 in Laurel County left 5 people injured. Law enforcement is looking for 32-year-old Joseph Couch, who allegedly opened fire on I-75 near exit 49 on Saturday. There were 5 people hit by bullets, but a total of 8 people were injured as a result of accidents from the shooting. Have they checked his Discord profile yet? Asking for a friend, police say Couch abandoned his car near Daniel Boone National Forest, along with the AR-15 believed to have been used in the shooting. So they just happened to find the AR-style rifle by the car that points it to him And he went into the national forest unarmed. He just happened to go in after causing chaos and terror on the interstate and just happened to leave the murder weapon by a car registered to him and went unarmed into a state forest. And you all want me to buy this shit. Something doesn't fucking add up here, folks. I mean, if I'm going to spend... How big is Daniel Boone National Forest? If I'm going into a forest that's 708,000 acres, and also part of a 2.1 million acre proclamation boundary, if I'm going into a place that's forested that big, I'm going to assume in a warm climate that there's going to be at the very least a fucking coyote, if not a wolf. It's probably a little bit too warm for bears, but they could be out there. Mountain lions. A large amount of things that want to fucking eat you. Not to mention, how are you going to get food for 4 days? And you know law enforcement is gunning for you. This shit don't math, folks. KSP released more footage, information about Couch on Monday, including a photo and identifying traits. Couch is alleged to have opened fire near I-75, near exit 49, around 5:30 p.m. Saturday, hitting 5 people with gunfire. 3 other people were injured on accidents stemming from the shooting. Police said they found the abandoned Toyota on the top of a hill near Forest Access Road on Saturday night. They then found the AR they believed was used in the shooting on Sunday. The sheriff's office said Couch legally obtained the AR-15 in London on Saturday, along with about 1,000 rounds of ammo. Authorities said Couch has a military background. He has a military background, but he left his armament behind. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And yeah, they want me to fucking buy this. He was in reserve from March 2013 to January 2019, has 12B Combat Engineer. According to U.S. Army spokesperson, he was a private at the end of service. He has had no deployments. He was a private for 6 fucking years? No wonder he's pissed. No wonder he was an easy target for somebody to say, hey, we'll make sure that you pass the background check. Just go into this store right here. God, I don't buy this one. According to an affidavit, Couch sent a text message before the shooting saying, I'm going to kill a lot of people. Well, try at least. The warrant affidavit also said in a separate text, Couch said, I can't say that on YouTube, afterwards. Self-delete. According to the affidavit, the texts were sent at 5:03 p.m. on Saturday, less than 30 minutes before the shooting happened. So, that is the first one. He just went up to a high vantage point and started shooting down the interstate. On the other one that was very conveniently timed, right before presidential debate, this is a live updater page, but this is events updating here. Georgia school shooting, suspect's father arrested on charges including involuntary manslaughter. Yes, we had a school shooting as well. In Georgia. I'm going to go with this one here before we go to the live updater. 2 students, 2 teachers killed at Georgia high school. Shooter was 14-year-old student, police say. From the National Desk staff, no author given. Luna C has joined us. Welcome. Dual Helix is still looking for Kerbal Space Program. Oh, I've been on a list for a while. A little side story to this, because Dual Helix says I probably got put on a list for looking up the prices of 5.56. One day, this is before I moved, when I was still at my old place. I was looking around on Amazon. I was on the front page, just kind of browsing to see what kind of deals they had that day, and looking down through the recommendations tab. And in the books recommended for you, because I like to read a lot of Kindle, and I buy a lot of Kindle off Amazon, obviously, because it's their internal program. Recommended for you in Kindle, in the Kindle store. 4 entries in on there was the Anarchist Cookbook. I've been on a list for a while, guys. At least you can be like, yeah, Detective Chloe McGlowy face, I have a newscast. KSP, okay, oh, State Patrol, I thought it was Kerbal Space Program. If you actually were knowledgeable and owned one of these, they'll take a 223. 556 is military. Yeah, that's the fallout in me going through, because New Vegas 556 is the standard. I mean, dimensionally, they're approximately the same size. The 223, I think, is a little bit shorter cartridge. Anyway, we've got to go talk about the Georgia shooting. 2 students, 2 teachers killed at Georgia High School. Shooter was a 14-year-old student, police say. From Winder, Georgia, 4 people. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed and 9 others were injured in a shooting at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia. On Wednesday, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said. The suspect has been identified as 14-year-old Colt Gray, a student at the high school. The shooter will be charged with murder and tried as an adult. He will be booked on Wednesday night, according to the GBI. During a news conference on Wednesday, GBI Director Chris Hosey identified the 4 people who were killed. There are 4 individuals who were deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. One of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers at the school, Hosey said. He said the 2 students who were killed were both 14 years old. They've been identified as Mason Shemmerhorn and Christian Angulo. The teachers who were killed were Richard Aspinwall, 39, and Christina Iramine, 53. According to Hosey, both of those teachers are listed in high school's online staff directory as math teachers. The 9 other people who were injured have not been yet ID'd. Of the 9, 8 were students and 1 was a teacher, according to investigators. On Wednesday, Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith said all of the victims were hospitalized and are expected to recover. Let's get the map out. Just so we can see where this is at. I'll bring the Chrome tab over here because I haven't changed over my left tab. So we are northeast of Atlanta. Probably about 70 to 80 miles. Right here, along the I-85 corridor. So not a place that I have been personally myself, because anytime I come to Atlanta, I come in from this direction, for obvious reasons. And I don't think we've gotten, anytime I've been there, past like Alpharetta. I've never gone any direction south from Atlanta. Last time I was in Florida, I took 95, so nowhere close to any place that I have been. But not even suburban Atlanta, outside the Atlanta metro area. Four people, 2 were students. Yeah, we know that one. Colt Gray. Shooter slated to be booked. Yeah, they talked about that. The Barrow County Sheriff's Office received reports of shooting at the school at about 10:20 a.m. Eastern Time. and authorities arrived at the school minutes later, GBI said during a 4 p.m. Eastern Time press conference. A school resource deputy assigned to the school came out in contact with the suspect, who surrendered by getting on the ground. The suspect was then taken into custody by a deputy, which shocks the shit out of me because usually they off those people. Typically, if it's what I suspect that this is, which I probably can't talk about on a YouTube live stream, the person in question doesn't get to be brought in and give a testimony. Because then they find out things that are inconvenient about the investigation. That happened 6 days before a presidential debate, by the way. We're still trying to clarify a lot of the timeline from the time that he got here to school until the incident took place, Hosey said. The investigation is still ongoing, and we got a lot out of this as well. Merrick Garland weighed in because he's Merrick fucking Garland. AG Garland addressed the shooting during a meeting of the DOJ's Election Threats Task Force on Wednesday. I want to address the tragic shooting that occurred this morning at a high school in Winder, Georgia. We're still gathering the information, but the FBI and ATF are on the scene working with state, local, and federal partners, Garland said. In a statement released Wednesday, FBI Atlanta confirmed that it responded to Appalachia following reports of an active shooter, and the FBI personnel has been coordinating with and supporting local and state law enforcement. So, we got a lot of information about this guy. This is the article that came out that day, and it hasn't been updated in 5 days. So this is what we got the day that it happened. But of course, there's more news out there at this point. Victims have been identified. We talked about that in the other article. You want a shock? Are you ready for a shocker? And then we'll go check the live chat after this. Libs of TikTok breaking: the Georgia school shooter was known to the FBI since 2023. FBI Atlanta responded earlier today to Appalachia High School following reports of an active shooter. Throughout the day, the FBI personnel have been coordinating with and supporting the local and state law enforcement. The FBI will dedicate all available resources as requested to seek justice and bring closure to the victims and families. In May of 2023, the FBI's National Threat Operations Center received several anonymous tips about online threats to commit a school shooting at an unidentified location and time. I bet Discord was involved. The online threats contained photographs of guns. Within 24 hours, the FBI determined the online post originated in Georgia, and the FBI's Atlanta field office referred the information to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office for action. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office located a possible subject, 13-year-old male, and interviewed him and his father. The father stated he had hunting guns in the house, but the subject did not have unsupervised access to them. The subject denied making the threats online. Jackson County alerted the local schools for continued monitoring of the suspect. At that time, there was no probable cause for arrest or to take any additional law enforcement action on the local, state, or federal levels. Well, too little too fucking late, folks. I have a lot of questions surrounding this. I really do. Now, I don't know what the terrain is around Appalachia School. I don't know how far this kid lived away from the school. But an AR-style rifle is not something you just throw in a backpack and get on the public bus to go. I have questions about this, and my biggest one is, how did he get to the school? With that dipshit cruise all the way back in 2018, I mean, it was at least feasible and believable that, because he was 18 and he bought the rifle himself, that he got into a car and brought it there. The same with the Uvalde jack off. I mean, they did the chase with his truck. We saw the axle get shifted off out from under the springs when that one happened. And I'm not saying that somebody can drive illegal or can't drive illegally, because that happens, and I know that happens. Necessity and the ability to get to work happens relatively. But I'm saying if this kid had to walk more than a couple blocks, somebody should have known that a small town, I don't know how big this town is either, but somebody should notice that somebody was walking down the street with an AR, or the guy tried to get on a city bus or a school bus with the thing. This is another one of those things where it doesn't add up to me. I have a lot of questions. CNN, Georgia high school shooting suspect referenced Parkland massacre in writings found in his bedroom, sources say. From Yahya Abu Ghazala, Casey Tolan, Scott Glover, Josh Campbell, Kurt Devine, and Allison Gordon. We're at 50 more minutes. Actually, I said that I was going to check on this. Mock says, I heard 8 p.m. and forgot your ass was in Central Time. Yes. Did the shooter fail math? Apparently he didn't fail logistics, so is that why 2 teachers are dead? Luna C says, I had family in Winder, live an hour east of there. How big is Winder, Luna C? Like, is that something where the neighborhood would know? Like, if they saw a kid walking down the street and say, hey, parent, your kid is on the fucking loose. Is it that kind of town, or? Palm says, guess I'm lucky a student didn't shoot me when I was a teacher. Mock says, I remember my math teachers growing up. In the words of Chris Rock, I'm not condoning the actions, but I understand. Oof. Palm says, I had students who told me they weren't going to do the work I gave them because another teacher would just do it for them. These were kids who couldn't do math because they refused to, not because it was hard stuff. Yeah, they are charging the dad in this one. We'll cover that a little bit here. Was the dad the one who supplied the gun? Yes. Yes, he was. Mock says, Carpool claimed it was for band. I don't know. I still have questions about this one. This one bothers me too. Helix says, we can't talk about this on YouTube. You can break it in half. The bottom half fits. Not going to do that on YouTube, but I get where you're going with that. Again, why was the kid pissed? This seems like pretty random. There's always motivation, but they don't tell us what the motivation is. Authorities are searching the home of the 14-year-old accused of killing 4 at the Georgia high school this week. Found documents that they believe he wrote referencing past school shootings. Law enforcement source familiar with the investigation told CNN. The source said the writings were discovered in the bedroom of suspect Colt Ray and included references to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. The discovery, which could shed more light on a motive for the shooting, comes amid an emerging portrait of Gray's tumultuous family life in the years leading up to the deadly attack. Revealed in a CNN review of court and law enforcement records, social media posts, and an interview with his grandfather. As that portrait emerged, so have details about the investigation and authorities' pursuit of those they allege bear responsibility. In the shooting, Gray told investigators, I did it. While being questioned, Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith told CNN on Thursday. Again, check his Discord history. And while Gray faces 4 counts of felony murder, Gray's father, Colin, has also been arrested in connection with the shooting, accused of knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon. GBI Director Chris Hosey said on Thursday Colin Gray was charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. The GBI said, the second degree is not going to stick. I can tell you that right off the bat. Those are getting thrown out. The involuntary manslaughter probably will. Cruelty to children, I don't know if that's going to stick either. As for Colt Gray's family situation, his parents went through a bitter separation and custody dispute in recent years. They called law enforcement on each other, the family was evicted from at least one home, and Gray's mother was arrested on suspicion of keying her husband's car and drug possession, law enforcement records show. At the same time, Gray's mother and maternal grandfather have accused Gray's father of being verbally abusive toward his family for years. So, he was prime target for that anonymous person in the Discord chat who just happens to hate the J's and the N's as much as you do and thinks that you're alright and maybe you should go back and do this thing. He was a good kid, but he lived in an environment that was hostile, Charles Polhemus said of Colt Gray, his grandson, in an interview with CNN. His dad beat up on him. I mean, I'm not talking about physical, but screaming and hollering, and he did the same thing to my daughter. The grandfather said that he'd never seen Colt Gray show any signs of anger problem, but the turbulent family life has affected the teenager. Now investigators are seeking to understand the suspect's motive and are looking into his family's previous contacts with the state's CPS, the GBI director said on Wednesday. The suspect's father told investigators this week he had purchased the gun used in the killings as a holiday present for his son in December of 2023, according to two law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the investigation. One source told CNN the AR-style rifle was purchased at a local gun store as a Christmas present. The other source described the gift as a holiday present. Attempts to reach both the suspect's parents for comment on Wednesday and Thursday were unsuccessful. CNN was working to determine whether Colt Gray and Colin Gray have legal representation. So, not a lot of motive yet at this point. A couple other things with that. Mother of Georgia school shooting suspect called school with warning 30 minutes before gunfire on says. And see, when I see stuff like this, when I see somebody who, I mean, this checks all the boxes for me, which is why I'm so suspicious of it. Verbally abusive, domestic issues. You know, the big issue right now is, well, the person with the domestic rap sheet shouldn't be able to buy a gun, even though he hasn't been charged with any crime. Which I find is bullshit. If you think that you can take his rights away from him, then charge him with a fucking crime. A felony, especially. And yes, that should be a felony offense. Absolutely. But there's a lot of this that's looking to me that says they wanted this to happen. The mother of the 14-year-old, who has been charged with murder over the fatal shooting of 4 people at his Georgia high school, called the school before the killings, warning any staff of an extreme emergency involving a son, a relative said. Ann Brown told the Washington Post that her sister, Colt Gray's mother, texted her saying she spoke with the school counselor and urged them to immediately find her son and check on him. Brown provided screenshots of the text exchange to the newspaper, which also reported that a call log from the family's shared phone plan which showed a call was made to the school about 30 minutes before the gunfire was believed to have erupted. Brown confirmed the reporting to the Associated Press on Saturday in text messages, but declined to provide further comment. But also, mom of alleged Georgia school shooter, Colt Gray, once threatened to kill husband and wrote troubling Facebook posts about him, according to a report. There's just too much going on here, guys. By the way, they are saying that the shooter was transgendered. I cannot confirm or deny this at this point. Looking at the image, it is suspicious at least. But I had long hair for like 3 years too, so. The mother of Colt Gray once described herself as a victim of abuse and boasted online that her kids were thriving around the same time authorities visited her son to probe an alleged threat he made to shoot up his school. Marcy Gray's social media includes posts detailing her former husband's abusive upbringing and their own apparently tumultuous relationship in the months before she proclaimed she left him. I packed myself and my babies up and relocated to my hometown in South Georgia. We are all good and my kids are thriving, Marcy, who has her own rap sheet dating back nearly 2 decades, wrote on May of 2023 on LinkedIn. The announcement of her departure from the family home came after Marcy wrote about husband Colin's childhood as one of the most severe physical abuse. From my husband's first memory, all he knew was abuse. I'm talking about everything from getting a broken arm at age 8 while he was totally asleep to having a bar stool crack his skull open, she wrote on Facebook on November 2022. I still rub my fingers across the scar and gouge on his scalp, thinking to myself, how? I can't even comprehend it. That's what substance abuse can do to a mama, to a daddy, to a spouse, to a sibling. You name it, it will reach them. In another social media missive, Marcy wrote, no one but me understands the pain my husband lives with every single day. Every single person in his life has hurt or betrayed him. I don't see where she threatened to kill him, though. Gray also tied up her elderly mother and left her for 24 hours. Drug possession, aggravated battery, theft, and criminal trespass. And she once threatened to kill her husband during an incident, source told the Daily Mail. So, yeah, this seems like a fantastic family life. But I still look at this and I mean, when I see stuff like this, I mean, this is prime target for intervention if somebody wants something to happen on a certain day. From the New York Post, Georgia school shooting suspect Colt Gray's dad called him a sissy and bought him an AR-15 to toughen him up, relatives say. Colin Gray believed his 14-year-old son was too gentle and bought him an AR-style rifle in an attempt to toughen him up, a relative claims. Colin Gray gave his troubled son the assault rifle for Christmas. It's not an assault rifle, by the way. The weapon Colt ended up using last Wednesday's bloodbath at Appalachia High School. That is in there for a reason, by the way, that terminology, because that quote is going to come up, the auto industry quote bloodbath tonight. That left 2 teens and 2 teachers dead, authorities have said. He would call Colt names to his face, say relatives of Colt's mother, Marcy, names that no boy wants to hear, sissy, pussy, bitch, just names that were meant to break him down and emasculate him. The relatives added, Colin also thought that Colt was too gentle and tender, that's why I believe he gave him the rifle. So, lots of fun stuff. And he has been arrested, as was mentioned before. Another one from the Post. Grandpa of accused Georgia school shooter Colt Gray says teen's evil father should get death penalty for provoking the massacre. I don't think that any appeals court would let that fly. I don't completely disagree, but I know the legal system. I'm against the death penalty. And I know that unless he directly pulled the trigger, there's no way to do so. So, that is this. The last one I'm going to do before I take off on this one and we talk about financial things. I got 2 more that I want to do for this. Sarah Fields, who is at Sarah is Censored over on X, brings up a very, very good point. If you don't follow Sarah is Censored, she does really, really good breakdowns of people who proclaim to be lifelong Republicans but have lifelong Democratic voting records. And it's entertaining to watch. All the personal details are blanked out, so there's no doxing involved. Why do we know more about Colt Gray and his father Colin Gray than we know about Thomas Crooks? Thomas's body was cremated before a full investigation could even be completed, which I found interesting. Did you know that Rep. Clay Higgins tried to inspect Crooks' body as part of an investigation into the shooting, but he then reported that it was gone when he arrived? Congressman Higgins revealed this was in a preliminary investigation. In his report, Higgins wrote that he had attempted to examine Crooks' body but was unable to do so and alleged the FBI was obstructing further investigation. Instead, the FBI released the body for cremation 10 days after J13. The FBI also knew about threats from Colt Gray well before he murdered 4 people. Why is no one talking about this? It's being memory hold. The FBI and the DOJ are not for the American people. Well, it's not completely memory hold. This is going to get brought up tonight, but it's going to be brought up as a missive of why do we keep having shootings? Evil Republican. And this one is tangentially related, but right after this, Catherine Merck for CBS 58 out of Milwaukee, pointing out gun store opens near middle school. Some parents in Menomonee Falls are sharing concerns after the Shepherd Arms opened less than 800 feet from North Middle School. Let's listen.
Hi everybody, CBS 58's Catherine Merck here. I'm outside of Shepherd Arms, which is a new gun store in Menomonee Falls. It's created some conversation on social media as parents voiced concern with how close it is to North Middle School. So right now I'm showing you exactly how far away it is from the school by going on a walk. Right now I'm at the intersection of Main Street and Appleton Avenue in Menomonee Falls, and it's very close to where North Middle School is, as you'll see by this walk. The business owner I spoke to over at Shepherd Arms told me he's following the laws in place. He has a lot of signs up saying that it is within 1,000 feet of the school. However, he has special business applications, he says, that allow him to be where he's located. And so he's in operation right now. There are people inside of the store purchasing weapons inside of there. As you continue to walk down the street, you'll see a lot of other businesses here. I spoke with one mother who told me that this isn't something that's typical in Menomonee Falls, especially right downtown. She was going to take her daughter to go get ice cream and said that it's just not something that the city is used to in that way. And she did voice some concern with the business. She's thought that especially because it's middle schoolers that are down the street from this area, she says that's a time in a child's life where they're trying to figure out who they are and develop what they're going to be as a person and as an adult. And so she said that being exposed to something like that worries her, especially in the climate of today surrounding.
Okay, I can't listen to that anymore. Look, I've talked about this before. I talked about this at Parkland, and I know that times are different now than they were in 2002 when I got out of high school. But it was not uncommon when I was growing up, and I knew which vehicles they were. 25% of the cars in the parking lot at my school had a firearm, cased and unloaded per Wisconsin law, in them. Because they belonged to the farm kids. And if they had to take down a coyote or something on the way home, they could. Unless, of course, it happened to be between the first 2 weeks of November or the last 2 weeks of April. And then it was 70%. Deer and turkey hunting. You couldn't get away with that now, by the way. You could not get away with that now. That would be a zero tolerance crackdown right now. But this gun store here they're following all the legal laws. They're checking IDs. They're checking everything else. No kid is going to be at the middle school, go into the store and steal a gun. I don't know if that's what the concern is, or just the fact that, oh, they see guns and now they want that to be a part of their personality. I don't know. It's so tiring. What, cars? Palm says, why does it sound like Kenny's house from South Park? Oh, yeah, the abusive house. Mark says, I think in Georgia, he can be charged with first-degree murder due to he provided the weapon. No, he cannot. That's still first-degree manslaughter. Mark says, the ones who were screaming, why was nothing done, be the same assholes screaming, Why are they taking the family's guns, and why are the cops harassing this family? Had nothing happened and the police did more. Probably true. 33 minutes to debate time. Let's keep going. Let's talk about the budget. Yay. This is depressing news. We'll probably get to the tenant media stuff, and we'll probably have to go shut down. We will probably get to rules of acquisition because I want to do that, and I've got a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate. But we do want to go and be right and ready for the debate coverage. South Carolina law says no guns on school grounds. I know a couple kids that got in trouble due to hunting season. Yeah, that's a relatively recent thing too, like I said. All right, Speaker Johnson sticks to government funding plan despite GOP opposition. Congress is working to avoid a government shutdown set to begin at 12:01 a.m. on October 1st. So far, the parties have not agreed on a plan. From Scott Wong and Ali Vitali. Despite a mounting opposition from his own party, Mike Johnson vowed Tuesday to stay the course and put the government funding package on the House floor on Wednesday. His initial strategy to avert a government shutdown at the end of the month is expected to fail and deal House Republicans an embarrassing blow. Due to the paper-thin majority, Republicans can only afford a handful of GOP defections on the vote, and many more that have publicly voiced their opposition. But the party's standard bearer, Donald Trump, has called on Johnson and Republicans to shut down the government if they can't link a funding bill to the SAVE Act, which would overhaul voting laws that require people to show proof of citizenship when registering to vote. If Republicans in the House and Senate don't get absolute assurances on election security, and then we get to the all caps, they should in no way, or shape, or form go forward with continuing resolution on the budget. Close it down, Trump posted Tuesday on Truth Social. Johnson has followed Trump's lead, even though that plan is dead on arrival, and the Democrat-controlled Senate faces a veto threat from the White House and likely won't even get out of the House. Democrats and some Republicans want a clean continuing resolution, or CR, keeping the government's lights on until December past the election. Speaking to reporters after a closed-door meeting with Republicans on Tuesday, Johnson wouldn't say whether he was willing to heed Trump's suggestion and shut down the government over the voting legislation, but he aggressively defended his play call, a 6-month CR that would fund the government through March and is tied to the SAVE Act. Alright, there's a lot to unpack here. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to go through this, because Johnson did one thing right, and his bill is going to get blocked even then, by taking this out through March. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is my position on government shutdowns, and that is the fact that I love government shutdowns. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I wish that more of the government would shut down, because of course this is always going to be a partial government shutdown. Congress is going to stay in session. They are going to withhold Social Security checks, but that's just to put the idea in the minds of the elderly voters that Republicans hate them. The mail is still going to go out. And anything that doesn't get paid gets back paid at the end of it. It literally changes nothing except for the fact that some Democrat official is going to go out and start putting locks on national parks. That is the extent of what is going to happen from a government shutdown. Everything else is still going to happen. The military is still going to function. It's still going to run. We're still going to be world policing and putting a rifle in the back of everybody we don't like around the world. That's never going to fucking change. That's not going to go away. The post office is still going to run. Congress is still going to get their salaries. All of this is still going to happen. I wish more of it would shut down when they ran out of money. I really do. And of course, you guys know that my most consistent position on a government shutdown is the biggest problem with the government shutdown is they're going to open the fucking thing back up. But we're not going to look at this from a fiscal lens, even though that's where I typically go with this. We're not even going to look at this through a voting act lens, because the SAVE Act doesn't pass constitutional muster anyway. Article 2 still exists. I like the SAVE Act. I wish that it could go into place, but as long as we have Article 2 not amended, Congress cannot make any local election laws. That's why Wisconsin keeps losing at the Supreme Court when they try to oust our voter ID laws. It's because they don't have a fucking leg to stand on. Because that's a local law per Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. Anyway. The strategy that Trump is trying to put out with this is the fact that if they shut the government down, it is going to be because Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck U. Schumer and Biden are going to be the ones that block it. It's like he hasn't faced down the media at all in the last 3 years. In the last 9 years, for that matter. No matter who's to blame, and in the situation that we're in right now, yes, it would absolutely be Democrats to blame in this situation. But once you turn on the news, every time, and they're good at this, by the way. They're very good at this. They've been good at this since Obama, who was the one who shut the government down. It was his fault in 2012 when they did this. Is they can turn around and spin this and always make it look like it's the Republicans' fault. There have been 8 government shutdowns or government shutdown threats since I started following politics. Only 2 of them have been directly attributed to Republicans. Every other one has been Democrats have said, no, we're not playing ball with the suggestion that you made. And yet, all 8 times, the news media said, those evil Republicans want Grandma to die and not get her Social Security check. This close to an election, Johnson, swallow your pride. Now, what needs to happen, and this will get probably vetoed by Democrats, is Johnson is absolutely 100% correct in the fact that the government shutdown should go through March, or I'm sorry, not the shutdown, but the funding should go through March. Democrats only want it to go to September or December rather, and I'm going to tell you why. They want to base their spending and their plans for the next continuing resolution on who is going to be taking Congress next. They did this last time too, by the way. They want to wait and just keep everything going through December, and then they've already got a CR written for if Democrats lose the presidency and either the House or the Senate. They've already got a CR written up to go with that. To come forward to cram as much of their pet projects in for the next continuing resolution in the lame duck session. So yes, taking this out till March is the right decision, strategically from Johnson's position. And it does put Democrats on the off foot. But you're not going to get the SAVE Act into it, and anything of you shutting the government down right now, even though it's going to be Biden vetoing the bill or Schumer killing it on site, is going to get pushed back on Republicans. End of story. And you are going into an election that, while I hate your party with a passion, I really want to see your party win. God help me for the fact that I just said that. God help me for the fact I just said that. I have to get up extra early for work tomorrow, otherwise I would be taking a shot for that one. That one hurt. So, strategically, that is the position that we need to be in right now. Will it happen? Probably not. Will Republicans get blamed for it when it does shut down? Probably. Biden's already come out and said that he is going to axe the SAVE Act, which we knew he is going to. And it's not because it's unconstitutional, but that's because It's devastating to his narrative. What Rumble windows do I have open? Oh, that's what I have open. I'm like, I saw 3 Rumble windows open. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I have the debate queued up. Palm says, the small human in Ed's life has been correcting his pronunciation of the word car. And I'm still going to say it that way. My sister has no idea that I'm alive right now. By the way, my sister doesn't watch Contemporary, apparently. There's GOP opposition, which is probably good. This one I found interesting, though, from Axios. House Democrat defies Jeffries on shutdown fight. From Andrew Solandar. At least one centrist House Democrat plans to vote for Speaker Johnson's stopgap spending bill, despite opposition from his own party leadership. Jared Golden's defiance undercuts Hakeem Jeffries' attempts to keep his caucus unified and deny Republicans any votes that they may need to pass the measure. This is Democrat from Maine, by the way, which is vulnerable. Johnson's proposal would keep government funded at current levels for 6 months and require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. Democrats are pushing for a 3-month stopgap that excludes non-citizen voting bill called the SAVE Act. Jared Golden, a staunch moderate who co-chairs the centrist Blue Dog Coalition, told Axios he plans to vote for Johnson's bill, noting that he already voted for the SAVE Act in July. I agree with the SAVE Act, so what would my reason be not to vote for it, Golden said, told Axios, adding, it's a pretty bad idea to shut down the government. The Maine Democrat said he shares his party's concerns about funding for the Department of Veterans Affairs under a 6-month bill, but argued it would be worse if the government shuts down. The debate is always on at like 9 Eastern, isn't it? They run at 9 to 10 Eastern time, so they can get it in prime time for Pacific time. Golden is only one of 5 House Democrats who voted for the SAVE Act, who publicly said he plans to vote for Johnson's spending measure. Mary Peltola is absent from votes this week, while Marie Glusenkamp, Perez of Washington, and Don Davis of North Carolina declined to comment. So, there's a crack in the caucus, but it's only one. So, alright, what do we have for time? 20 minutes. Let's do this one and then the op-ed that goes with it. And we'll touch on the tenant media stuff. We're probably not going to get to the Hunter stuff tonight. Alright, from CNN. Judge delays Trump sentencing until after the election, from Kara Scannell, Lauren DeValle, and Jeremy Herb. Former President Trump will not be sentenced in his New York criminal case until after the election, Juan Merchan announced on Friday, explaining that his decision to delay the sentencing is in part to avoid any appearance of affecting the outcome of the presidential race, in spite of the fact that the entire trial was affecting the outcome of the race, or attempting to at least. Merchan, who wrote in a new 4-page letter that he would sentence Trump in November 26 if necessary, in response to a request from Trump's lawyers to push back the sentencing. Trump was convicted on May of 34 counts. Yeah, we know that one. Merchan noted the upcoming election in his decision to delay sentencing, saying in part of his reason for doing so was to avoid the appearance of the sentencing was intended to influence the November election. Again, no, that was the trial. Adjourning decision on the motion and sentencing, if such is required, should dispel any suggestion that the court will have issued any decision or imposed sentence, either to give an advantage to or create disadvantage for any political party and or candidate for any office, Merchan wrote, as he was slipping notes to Kamala Harris saying, "Just say he's a convicted felon. He's set to be sentenced. It'll work, trust me." Which guy is that? What, me? Do I smell? Oh, Merchan. Trump expressed appreciation for the language Merchan used in delaying his sentencing, noting that will only commence if necessary. "I greatly appreciate the words in the letter from the judge," he said, "if necessary being utilized in the decision, because there should be no if necessary. This case should rightfully be terminated immediately," Trump said during remarks to the Fraternal Order of Police in North Carolina. The former president also falsely stated that the sentencing was postponed because he did nothing wrong. In addition to pushing back the sentencing until November 26th, Merchan wrote that he would decide on Trump's motion to vacate the verdict because of the Supreme Court's immunity decision on November 12th, which also is after the election. Merchan wrote in his letter that the Supreme Court rendered a historic intervening decision with its immunity ruling. I don't even know why he has to decide on that. That was not in an official capacity. There's no reason to rule on that one. That one's obvious. And that's coming from somebody who thinks that this whole stupid thing was a railroading operation to begin with. It's still fairly obvious that that this was not an official act. Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Cheng responded to the decision saying, "There should be no sentencing in the Manhattan DA's election interference witch hunt." As mandated by the U.S. Supreme Court, this case, along with all the other Harris-Biden hoaxes, should be dismissed, Cheng said, which is wrong because, again, that was not an official act of the presidency, what he was doing. I don't believe it was a felony either, but it was not an official act regardless. So, I think he's going to dismiss, though, on all those grounds. I do. This is an op-ed from Newsweek. Trump's sentencing ruling was right, but he shouldn't go scot-free. This is an op-ed from Tom Rogers. The opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of Tom Rogers, and not necessarily of Newsweek, Turns of Pages Productions, Contemporary, or your host, J. Edgar. Despite the fact that we are now in the final chapter of the presidential campaign, the various court cases pending against former President Trump are back in the news, whether it's new indictments being filed or motions related to what conduct falls within the recent Supreme Court decision on immunity. There has been plenty of activity on the Trump legal front. However, given all the legal skirmishing, only one case has led to conviction so far, and that is the hush money case. While there seemed to be a slight advantage for Biden when he was still the Democratic candidate in the polling immediately following the convictions, it would be hard to say, given how close that race is, that the conviction in the New York case will play much of a role among swing voters in key swing states. Thus, it's unlikely to meaningfully impact the November election. However, if Merchan, the jurist presiding over the case, had handed Trump any meaningfully punitive sentence before Election Day, all that may have changed. Trump's sentencing was scheduled until last Friday for September 18th, and a ruling by the judge on Trump's claim that his conduct is covered by Supreme Court immunity ruling was scheduled for 2 days before that. At the end of last week, Merchan made the wise decision to postpone the sentencing until after Election Day. As much as Merchan certainly wanted to hold the former president to the same standards as any other defendant and handle sentencing in the normal time frame, as much as he may have wanted to remove his sentencing decision from any political considerations, the reality is that it's impossible. Any decision to jail or not jail Trump, less than 2 months from Election Day, cannot be divorced from its political impact. Sure, Merchant's decision not to sentence Trump in mid-September, having already postponed sentencing once to give time to consider the Supreme Court immunity decision. Yeah, because that was actually supposed to be happening today. Will be criticized for doing just what he has committed not to do. Treat defendant Trump differently from any other criminal defendant. On the other hand, if he had sentenced Trump to any prison term, he would have been accused of massive political interference that would have played right into the Republican narrative. The Democratic prosecutor and a Democratic judge were part of a broader Democratic plot to use the power of the judiciary to bring Trump down and cost him the election. By now, Trump has many badges of dishonor, from the multitude of criminal indictments in 4 cases against him to the civil cases, where he and his business may have been found liable for hundreds of millions of dollars in fines and reparations. The unique badge of dishonor the Stormy Daniels case provides, branding him a criminal, is undoubtedly viewed by his detractors as just one more indication of the abomination that is Trump. His millions of supporters see it as a badge of honor, picturing Trump as the lone warrior, standing up against a politicized judicial system, from the vast majority that has already decided for whom they are voting in November. Trump's status as a criminal probably did nothing more than harden their views. However, a prison sentence for Trump imposed now may well have taken the emotion surrounding this case to an entirely new level, with jail time imposed in the final weeks of the campaign. A whole new campaign thrust would have opened that I think would have been to Trump's advantage. A big new question in voters' minds would have been, do you really want Trump to be behind bars? Framed that way, it would not only have fueled massive voter turnout among Trump supporters and created a valuable new Trump fundraising plea, most disturbingly, it likely would have moved all those who will ultimately decide this upcoming election, a small sliver of independents and undecideds in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Karl Rove, a Republican political consultant who is no Trump fan, recently suggested that the imprisonment issue would help Trump quite a bit with voters. Which, yes, it would. Whether they put him in Rikers, whether they put him on house arrest, this whole thing makes him a martyr. Which tells me it was stupid to do so in the beginning. Alright, it is 7:50. Yeah, we're not going to get to the tenant media stuff because I still have to look up where we're going to get to this now. So, we got about 10 more minutes to go here. And after that, if you are on YouTube, again, a reminder, if you are on YouTube, you will not continue seeing this live stream in about 10 more minutes. Instead, I'm going to be shutting down YouTube and we are going over to the debate. But before we head out of here, we have a regular tradition for closing off the main portion of the show by looking at the Ferengi rules of acquisition and a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate. I'm almost positive it would have swung the election in his favor. It would have been his Elba moment. Alright, so when we close out the show, one of the first things that we do on the closing side is we look at the Ferengi rules of acquisition. The rules of acquisition are akin to commandments in the Ferengi religion, the fictional race in Star Trek. Every week we read one of these rules, being ultra-capitalists that we are, determine if it can be used in real life, and how it can be used in real life, and, if applicable, we talk about how it is used in Alpha Canon. I've not read enough Beta Canon to talk about how it's used in the Beta Canon, but we definitely look at how it's used in the Alpha Canon, which this particular rule of acquisition is. The 17th rule of acquisition. A contract is a contract is a contract, but only between Ferengi. This is one of those where this was Ron Berry making fun of capitalism and fraternizing and cronyism, which I'm against cronyism myself as well, so I can see where he was making fun of this off. This is not one, if you're making a contract, then yes, you stick with your contract or go through the legal determinations and requirements to break the contract. You don't just rip it up and throw it out because you don't like the race of the person that's out there. We don't do that here. This is not one that gets used in real life. But this is coming from the DS9 episode Body Parts, where Quark thought he was dying, So he set up his auction because it's, I guess, a thing in Ferengi religion. When you die, you auction off the parts of your body. To gain more profit for your next of kin. A contract is a contract is a contract, but only between Ferengi means that everything that had previously been sold to other non-Ferengi members was essentially moot. When Brunt, the commissioner of the Ferengi Trade Commission, came in and bought Quark's whole body, and then when he found out that he wasn't dying, attempted to kill him anyway, just to get the rest of his body. So that is, I believe, a season 4 episode. Funny one. It's a very funny one. The Ferengi Center episodes, especially the Quark Center ones, are very, very funny. So Palm and I will probably be watching that in a few weeks. It's very good and very entertaining. And with that, let's look at a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. Helix asks, will there be ABC buffoonery? I don't know. I'm going to try to keep an open mind going into this one. Ed recently told me about these commandments. Yes. And that's why we go through one of them every week. There are 431 of them. But in Alpha and Beta canon, there's a big skip between the 299th and the 431st. And most people actually don't believe that the 431st applies because Star Trek Online is non-canon. I still used it when we got to the bottom. Alright, so a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate. Some of the news media out there is actually holding people to account and keeping them honest, because the Democrats are right now trying to copy Trump's homework, and I mean, they're doing what Bill Clinton did in the 90s. Copy Reagan's homework, add a little bit of IDPOL, identity politics, and add a little bit of welfare to it, but try to do the same thing that the successful Republican before them did. Including, yes, now Kamala Harris is saying that we need a wall. Well, Colin Allred, who is running to unseat Ted Cruz in Texas right now. Was it Cruz? No, it's not Cruz, it's the other one. Because Cruz just faced off against Beto. But Colin Allred lies when confronted over past remarks about racist wall he vowed to tear down. From Ryan Saavedra. Oh, it is against Cruz. I thought Cruz just faced off against Beto like 2 years ago. Colin Allred, D. Texas, lied this week when confronted during an interview that aired Sunday night about his past remarks that he made about Trump's border wall, claiming his remarks were taken out of context. Allred, who's running as Democratic Senate nominee against Ted Cruz, made the false claim while being asked about campaign ads that he's facing, where Cruz quotes Allred as saying, "If they build that racist wall, my generation will be the one that tears it down." When asked if he still believed that the wall was racist and if he still supports tearing it down, Allred, who was trailing Cruz by several points in the polls, claimed, well, they were talking about that. That's a comment taken out of context, really. He immediately deflected from answering questions and attacked Cruz for not supporting Democrats' border security bill that many experts argued would have actually made the Biden-Harris border crisis even worse than it already is. Plus, sent billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel. So, we do have that. Bernie Sanders also letting the cat out of the bag here. Bernie Sanders. Kamala isn't abandoning her progressive ideals. She's being pragmatic to win the election. Bernie Sanders is trying to do damage control to keep the progressives on board because they're looking at somebody who's getting ready to be a left of center moderate who is considered to be far right to the people who follow Bernie Sanders. But he's letting the cat out of the bag of what these morons do to begin with. They come out on primary day and they promise the moon and the stick and taking all the wealth away from the rich people and giving it to all the poor people. Until it comes time to general election, then they go, oh, well, we just want more union rights. And sorry, progressives. It's what they do all the time. Bernie shouldn't have said the quiet part out loud. Trump War Room says, quiet part out loud. Welker, do you think Kamala's abandoning her progressive ideals? Bernie, I think she's trying to be pragmatic and do what she thinks is right in order to win the election. Let's watch this, and I think we're actually going to have to close it on this one.
Described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only...
And I mean, Harris is doing this in and of herself. I just saw a post recently where the Harris, was it Kamala wins or the Harris war? I think it was Kamala wins, is coming out here screaming, well, none of the top Fortune 100 companies support Donald Trump. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to go over real well against your audience who's expecting you to crumble the Fortune 100 companies because they're rich and wealthy. You don't want their support, remember? Or at least that's what you tell your voters. All right. With that, we do have to shut it down. We got to close it down. So, if you're on YouTube, we're going to go to the title card. We're going to head out of here. We're not going to have the outro music right now. But you're going to see this. The recording is going to stop. And you're going to see a blank screen in a few seconds. In the description below, you can find a link to my Twitch channel, which this will still be live on. And I'm going to put a link in the live chat for the Rumble stream right now. If you guys want to go back and follow over to that. But yes, YouTube will be shutting down in just a moment, so we will see you, the rest of you, the Twitch and the Rumble viewers, over on the flip side of the title card, and then we will catch up with the debate, which will be happening momentarily. So, take care, have a fantastic night, take care of each other, and I hope to see you guys here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And we'll see you on either the other side of the title card or next week on Tuesday. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.